It doesn't matter.
That's right.
Hey, y'all. Good to see you tonight. Welcome to my show for Thursday night. And if you were here last week, you saw my guest, Tab Pierce, who is the founder of Caliber Security, right, Katherine?
Yes, Caliber Security Partners.
Caliber Security Partners. And he came in talking about how his company, because of some things that happened in the market and a couple of poor decisions, how his company was failing and everybody advised him to shut it down. And instead, he stuck with it and dug it out of the hole, $750,000. Oh, well, the thing that really interested me last week was when he wrote his book, Upsurge, he got his wife to write chapter 1. And he was so surprised that she wrote how hard it was during that because she didn't want him to know how worried she was. She tried to keep up the good front. And I was like, oh my God. So this week I've got his wife on, Katherine, because I want to hear the other side of the story. So welcome, Katherine Tanner. She is the CEO of Caliber Security.
No.
3P&T Security, right?
Yes, 3P&T Security Recruiting.
Yeah. Okay, so Katherine, you can just tell them about yourself and your company.
Okay, so I took over, the company was already established in 2015, but I took over full-time in July, I think, of 2018. And having never been, a business person or a seasoned recruiter or anything, I just decided to run with it. Previously, I had been a stay-at-home mom and caregiver to my mother-in-law, and she passed away and had, a wonderful life. And then she passed away, and I was like, what am I going to do with all this time I have on my hands?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, it was kind of like, for a second, I was like, wow, I've got a blank slate. I can do whatever I want to. And then, so I kind of jumped in to try and just, fill the void a little bit. And I decided that I really liked it, and it was super hard, but I liked it. So
that's awesome. And so it was your son who was running it before?
Yes.
Okay. And then you took it over and you became the CEO. And did you say at first you were doing it part-time and then you decided, heck with it, I'm going to go for it?
Exactly. Yes.
But you had never worked in the security industry or cybersecurity industry,
right?
Or any of that.
Yeah, the only thing that I knew about cybersecurity or information security was what I would overhear, Tab talking about with, his company. So no, I didn't know the lingo. I didn't know, anything about it. And there was a huge learning curve, but it was really fun. In fact, the first client or potential client call that I had, it was a referral from somebody, and I had Tab sit in on the call with me because I was so nervous. I was like, what if I don't know what to say? So anyway, he doesn't sit in on the calls with me anymore. I'm on my own.
So when you took it over, he was still in the process of the turnaround for his company?
Yes.
Okay. So I want you to go back to the misery and tell us your side of it. We heard him talk about how hard it was and everything, but people, the thing that I want to get across to people is they feel so alone. It's a really lonely, scary journey for the entrepreneur, but then there's the other side, their loved ones, their partners, their everybody. So I think it's so great that y'all are so open about your experience.
Well, it's funny because Tab encouraged me, because I had no intention of writing the book. That was his deal, and he's like, I want you to write a chapter. And I'm like, what am I going to say? And he said, just write it from your point of view or whatever. And so I did. And like you said, he was so involved and in the thick of it that he couldn't see beyond that. And so he couldn't see that I was putting on the brave front and just trying to hold things together for our family. And then while he was doing that. So it was awful. It was a horrible, horrible time. It was super hard. And it's interesting too, because when he did that hard money lender, when he signed up for that, he didn't tell me that he had done that because, he was just thinking, oh, everything's going to work out, of course. And then I noticed, like, because oftentimes entrepreneurs pay themselves last, especially if they have employees. And so I noticed that, every once in a while he'd say, oh, our payday is going to be, a week or two out or whatever. And at the time I was in charge of the budget and paying the bills. And so I was starting to, kind of get frustrated because I'm like, dude, you got to tell me if, when I'm expecting a payment on the 15th and the 30th and it's not happening until, the dates are all off. I need to know so that I can then plan for that for our budget. And he was like, oh yeah. And then it just got worse and worse. And he came home from work early one day and was like, I got to tell you what's, that everything that's going on. Cause I've heard bits and pieces, but I had no idea how bad off it was. And he, of course he's telling me about this and all the debt and how, his business partner, one of them was, just through the roof mad at him about it. And I'm just trying to put on the brave face and be there for him, and at the same time, I'm thinking, what the crap are we going to do? Because I'm not working full time. I'm not working at all. I'm taking care of my mother-in-law and our daughter, excuse me, at the time was still living at home. And I just thought, we are up a creek without a paddle because he's our moneymaker, and so we just have always, since we got married, that was the role and the way that we decided we wanted to raise, excuse me, our family is I was going to be a stay-at-home mom and take care of the kids and raise them. And he was going to be the breadwinner. And that was, how we had wanted our lives. So I grew up with a mom that was in and out of marriages and had to work the whole time. And so a lot of the responsibility for taking care of the younger brothers and sisters, that kind of a thing fell to me. And I didn't want that for our kids. So anyway, but so yes, this is all going on. And I decide I've got to figure out a way that I can start bringing some money into the household. And thank goodness for Uber. So I signed up to be an Uber driver.
I did, but I didn't know that you did too.
Yes. And the funny thing is I cannot find my way out of a paper bag. And so,
that's funny.
It is. And so I've got, like my headset on as I'm driving people. I've got the GPS, that's directing me. Well, sometimes I had to go downtown Seattle, and their roads down there are just a nightmare for somebody that doesn't know them. And then a lot of times too, when I was inside the app waiting, going to pick somebody up, they would be on the opposite side of the street, but we're one way, and I'd just be like, oh my gosh, I'm surprised I didn't have a nervous breakdown, honestly. But I just, I looked at it like, okay, this is how I can contribute. And I looked at it as a way for me to have a break because it really was. It was time, I got to visit with people that got in the car. I didn't ever drive really late in the evening. So I didn't ever have drunks or anything like that.
That's good.
I just did it like right after work, the work hours till maybe 9:00 at night. So, and then I would do it for a few hours on Saturday. I'd come home, we'd switch, he'd go out driving and I'd, take care of the stuff that was going on at home. But it was really hard because I didn't have anybody really to lean on because of course at the time, I didn't want, everybody, any of my friends.
You don't tell everybody.
Yeah. It's not like, hey, guess what we did, so that was really difficult because I didn't want everybody to know our business. I'm trying to be strong for him and trying to balance a budget with no money. And so it was really challenging. I had a lot of private prayers going out to Heavenly Father and just really having to learn to trust him and trust that everything was going to work out somehow. I didn't know how. And that's the part that I have a hard time with because I'm like, but how long is this trial going to last? Because I'm ready to get it over with. And
Can you explain to people what hard money is? Because there may be some people listening that aren't sure what you mean.
I'm not even sure I completely know, but this is my understanding of what a hard money lender is. So what they do is they will loan you money at a super high interest rate,
Yeah.
and then you have to, obviously you have to pay it back when promised. And
Yeah.
when Tab did his, he had used the money to basically payroll some of his employees that were kind of sitting on the bench as they were waiting for this other contract to come through. And so he took out this hard money lender, or this loan from the hard money lender, and quickly got behind because that contract never happened to come through.
Yeah.
And then he had yeah, it was just a mess. He had to let go of all those people, of course. And then, as an entrepreneur, that's your baby, and so not only, he's got his own responsibilities to our family, but he's responsible in a sense for these employees, who are counting on him that the money's going to keep coming in and they're going to have work and all this other stuff. So just the amount of pressure that he was under was just incredible. And definitely I had times where I was just like, oh my gosh, we are just in a bad spot. And I would, just lose it with him around. And, we would just kind of talk through it, and it's going to be okay, and kind of get my head clear. And then I'd be good for another 2 or 3 months. And then we'd do it all over again. But for the most part, I really just tried to keep a stiff upper lip and just, let him know that what he was doing was right by sticking in, and that's what he was supposed to do, because we both really felt like that's what he was supposed to do. And
because it's like, most people do just declare bankruptcy, and no judgment. I'm not making a judgment against them, but that is the easy thing to do. But then you turn around and you go, but I really do owe this money. And so I can see, but then he also said, well, I figured the only way I could pay the IRS was through that his best shot at paying the IRS,
was through
that business, because that's not going away.
Right. Exactly.
All the other stuff, you might get all the other stuff to go away, but not that.
Yes. And it was kind of scary because you hear all these stories about, the IRS and how awful they can be, and things like that. And I know that Tab said this last week, but they were actually the best out of all of the people that owed to work with.
That's awesome.
It was incredible. So
it really is good to know that, because it's scary to think about. Even if you just have like 941 deposit payment rate or whatever, it's scary to think about. And then you go, but I don't even want them to think. I don't even want to be on their radar, because then I might get audited.
Yes, exactly. So
he told me about the one lender. Maybe it was the hard money lender that basically is like, we're coming over there, and
that's
like mafia or something.
Yes, that's exactly. And I don't know if that's where the hard money lender, title comes from, but they're very lots of scare tactics, and just you're just living in fear all the time, because especially having never been through an experience like this, we didn't know that they were bluffing, when they said that.
Well, in 3.5 years, right? It took y'all to finally, and so his mom, you were caring for her, and she passed away like maybe halfway through it.
Yes. Yeah. About halfway.
You had that on top of it.
Yes, we did. And thank heavens for his sister. He has 2 sisters and 2 brothers, and one sister was able to come, especially those last 6 weeks or so, and help to, spell us, because she had her first heart attack in October, and then passed away the following April. But during that time, when she was kind of recovering from the first heart attack, Tab and our daughter, she was 18 at the time, an adult, but and I were taking 3-hour shifts sleeping, and and that is not enough to get by on. I can do that.
I can relate, because I wasn't going through what y'all were financially, but Tom and I basically, well, before that, because my mother died in 2014, but we cared for my mother for the last like 4 to 5 years of her life. And the last almost 4 of them, I lived with her. Her house was like 3 miles from our house. Tom lived in our house. I lived with her. Um, and I was running my business, and I made a really poor hiring decision. And I spent the last 6 months of her life scrambling to keep my business from going under because
Wow.
of the hiring decision that I had made. And, uh, that's why it touches me so much what y'all went through. I didn't have as big of a hole, thankfully, but
Yeah.
I still feel like I'm still recovering from it.
Oh, yes.
And this is going to sound really selfish. I don't mean to downplay people who have actually been to war. My husband has, so I know, but I feel like I have PTSD from the everything that I went through. And
Yeah.
and my employees went for several months without being paid
Mhm.
when it really got bad. And
Right.
but they were just great. We were like a family, but that one person was gone. But it breaks my heart, because if I had made a better decision, I wouldn't have spent the last 6 months of my mother's life focusing on this. I mean, I was still caring for her, and I was still living with her. But I can just imagine what y'all were going through.
Yeah, it was really it was a soul stretching time, that is for
Yeah.
sure. And
Well, it shows you what you're made of, doesn't it?
it does. It does. And it's interesting too, because I've been just over in the last year or two, I've been studying a lot about like mindset and the way that we self-talk.
Yeah.
And I can see that that makes such a huge impact. And so, when he's going through all this, now that I'm looking back on it, of course, having a little bit of knowledge now, and the way that his self-talk was going about, I made this mess, which he did,
Yeah.
but still, you know what I mean? And just
Yeah.
berating himself over, I mean, it was a all day long, every day type of a thing. And he was just broken, and this is the man who, I have never seen ever be brought to his knees, basically, and be so vulnerable and so unsure of being able to push forward. And then, of course, he's got the whole "I've completely disappointed, you to me," and I've disappointed the kids, and and you just go down that rabbit hole, and it is a
Yeah,
lot of work.
he talked about coming home and sitting in the chair and just
Yeah, he was
I
staring at the TV.
remember when everything happened really fast with my business because, well, I'm not a good manager. I hate managing people, and that's what my employees are basically people that don't need to be managed.
Yes.
That's because I'm one of these people. I need to be up here, because if I get down in the weeds, I can't get out. I get like totally OCD and perfectionist, and so I know that about myself. So when I hired this person to help me run the business, because and this is the stupid thing, I help people do this all the time that need to change their business. I help them use technology and strategy to reposition whatever it is, do whatever it is so that they can adapt. And I didn't do it for myself. I convinced myself that I needed to hire somebody to help me run it. And because I know that I'm not a good manager, I forced myself to go against my nature and pull back. So like my son and daughter worked for me, and when they were complaining from the get-go, I discounted it. I thought, oh, it's just because they're not used to this person like being between them. And I'm like, don't come to me, go to them. My husband was not happy because he was seeing things, but he was trying to not
stay out of it. Yeah.
So I really forced myself, like I said, to go against my natural and And I just kicked myself still for doing that because I saw little signs, but I felt that it was me being Miss Control Freak or whatever.
Right.
So, but then when everything started happening, it was like this one thing happened. I had owned my business since 1996, and this was 2013, the end of 2013. So 17 years I've owned my business,
Right.
never lost a client, never had anybody, like, nothing. And we have a client that canceled the project, and which I knew it was going to happen before they even did, because I opened up the email that was like this status update, and I'm like, what? Because the email was basically like the email that you would have sent at the very beginning of a project.
Oh.
My heart just sunk because we had already done all the work. This was a design project. We had already done all the work. All it had to do was be assembled in a presentation to get them to select it. And I had even said the Friday before, do you need any help getting it? No, got it. So Monday morning, this long thing goes out with all these questions.
Oh,
and
my
heart sunk. I mean, it was like I was in the twilight zone. And the guy called after a while, and he's like, I'm really sorry, but we've got to. I said, you know what? I don't blame you. I was going to call you and tell you.
Yeah.
But I said, we've already done the work. We have. And I said, so no matter what, we are going to finish it. We're just not going to charge you. And I said, I don't care if you don't use it. And this was for an annual report for a corporation. I said, I don't care if you don't use it, but we are going to finish it because this is what we do. And we've already done the work. So my staff worked. This was Monday before Thanksgiving. We worked all day Tuesday, late into Tuesday, and Wednesday delivered. Completed thing.
Wow.
That's what could have been sent on Monday. It was so bizarre. But I'll tell you, that was just, it's like once one little thing happens like that, I mean, that was a big thing.
Right.
But when that happened, it's like this snowball was coming, but I couldn't see it coming.
Mm-hmm.
There were all these things. And every day after that was another thing and another thing and another thing with other clients.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, what the hell? Because I literally had never, ever had, I'd never had any issues with any client. And we didn't have any other projects canceled. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you, that year on Christmas, we worked all the way through Christmas. I didn't even shop until the 26th. Mm-hmm. Hell on earth. And then that was just trying to get through the time where we were fixing everything that was screwed up,
Right. Yeah.
And then I had to turn around and be like, okay, now we have no money because we spent a month and a half working to redo crap that, Yeah. So, and that's the time period after that, the beginning of the year, is when my employees went for several months without pay, literally without pay. And I mean, I paid them later, but
but at the time, everybody's like, how long can we last? Yeah,
exactly. And I'm embarrassed. I remember the first day when that very first happened, and you were talking about Tad being so down on himself. And I was living with my mom. As I said, my husband was living in our house so that he could keep our animals. And it's only 3 miles apart. But I didn't come home very often because it would make me sad when I did, because of the animals and all that. So, but I came home and I just got in the bed and started crying. And sorry.
It's okay.
Sweet about it. I mean, I don't know what I would have said. I probably would have done the same thing. I know inside he wanted to go, what the hell were you thinking? I'm trying to tell you, but he was very, very sweet about it. And my mother had Alzheimer's. And so this all happened Thanksgiving, Christmas, 2013, and she died in May of 2014. So,
wow. But that is hard. My grandmother
that's
had Alzheimer's.
We also have in common, that y'all were caring for his mom, even though she didn't have Alzheimer's. You're a caregiver.
Yes.
And she's in your home. And
exactly. And there's no break,
Right.
And but speaking of Alzheimer's, my grandmother, when Allison, our youngest, was born, she was 2 months old, and she came to live with us, and she was in the early stages of Alzheimer's. And so I know just how hard that is.
Yeah.
That, you know, they don't call it the long goodbye for nothing.
No. And
it's
see,
hard.
my husband and I, when our kids were little, we cared for his dad. We lived in Florida then. We cared for his dad in our home when he had Alzheimer's for 7.5 years.
Wow.
And when our kids were like 6 months old and 2 years old, our kids were only 20 months apart. So we basically had 3 babies. Now, when he first moved in, it was just confusion. It wasn't really bad.
Yeah.
It was just confusion. But by the end, I look back on it now and I realize we were like both on the verge of a nervous breakdown, and we had sworn that we were not going to put him in a home, and we finally said we can't do it.
Yeah.
And we thought he probably had a few weeks to 2 months left, and we finally put him in a home. And this, I kick myself still. We didn't know. They said they were going to put a feeding tube in. This is going to sound really stupid to people. I didn't know when a feeding tube goes in, it doesn't come out. I mean,
right.
I was like 30 years old. I didn't know. I'd never been around. And so I was imagining that they were going to get his strength back. So this man who we felt like would have lived probably 2 more months ended up living like 4 more years.
Oh my gosh.
Awful. That was so hard because he was basically just a husk. And I know this doesn't have anything to do with business, but I'm going to get around to why it does. But it was just so hard going through that. And then once it's in, you don't want to be the one that pulls it out. But so, and I owned my business then. So that was one of the things with my own business. But I'm raising our kids, taking care of my father-in-law, and my husband traveled a lot with his work. He was usually gone all week and come back. But, we basically did it together, but all week it was me. But I knew that was why I loved web design so much when I first discovered it in 95, because I was like, this is perfect. I can live anywhere and, blah, blah, blah. So that's one reason that I love to help people now figure out a way that they can build their business so that no matter what happens in life, they can adapt and overcome.
Yes.
And the other irony with his dad is, that all of that we went through with him helped us take care of my mother. And his father and my mother they were like best friends. They loved each other. And I told Tom, I said, if Roy could, I'm sorry. I said, if Roy could have chosen to be the one to be sick first, he would have, because it helped her.
Yeah.
Oh,
so, I wish I could just.
The point of all that is that people have no clue what business owners go through and what caregivers go through. And when you're doing both at the same time,
yes,
it's really hard.
It is. Yeah, it's very, very difficult. Yeah. And, my heart just goes out to anybody that's a caregiver or, even a business owner, especially, with COVID. And we're still we come to our office twice a week. And, we just see these businesses all around us are closing up they're like restaurants.
It's really sad.
It's so sad. Yeah. And every time I, see another empty store or, a business that's not open anymore, my thoughts just are like, what are the people doing? Obviously they can't keep their businesses open when there's no, when there's no dining available or whatever. But, you put your heart and soul into that, that's your career, that's your baby. And sometimes that's your identity.
That's right.
And that's a hard thing when that all of a sudden is either taken away or you have to just, draw the curtains. And
people don't understand how important small business is in our country. I mean, a lot of people hear, small business is the backbone of America. But what they don't realize is small businesses are just so much a part of the fabric of local communities.
Yes.
And, if you think about when you were growing up, almost everybody has, wonderful things that they remember about some local business or businesses, whether it's the pharmacy that they would go sit at and have ice cream, or like my
Yes.
father would go to the music store and, people would go in there and look through all the records and, or took music lessons from him. And so, and small businesses are the ones that support the local sports teams and the local charities and everything. So when you lose those small businesses, you're losing so much of a part of the community's culture and fabric.
Yes.
And also the way I look at it is, younger people have so much to learn from older people. And so if the people who already own the businesses are able to keep them open and bring in younger people and groom them to take it over, it just, I don't know, it's really sad that we're seeing so much of that stopping now. And I have a lot of economic development clients. I also used to be on the board of the local economic development organization. And so that's another thing. It influences whether big companies come in, because
exactly
want a vibrant community for their employees to move into. They don't want to move in somewhere that it's deaf,
Right. Yeah. Well, we even had a Starbucks that was on the next block over. It's closed and gone because they're just, and I'm like, how does a Starbucks go out of business? I mean, you know what I mean? That location. We are in Everett.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So
I heard about the first one being vandalized last week.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that a Starbucks is closing.
Yes. Yeah. I was surprised too, because they seemed busy whenever I saw them, but obviously, it's not making the company enough money to stay open. But again, it's just, I mean, and even though that's like a bigger corporation, it still makes me sad, because there's people, those are their jobs.
Yeah, they're their jobs. And then it's other people's place to go and sit and see other people. And some people would go there and work. And
yeah.
So so I know it took y'all 3.5 years to dig out of this hole. And I know the company's doing great now.
Yes.
But his mom passed away before he finished that. And then you took over the company that you're running now before that also, right?
Yes.
Like maybe a year and a half before he had it paid off?
Yes, I did. And, it's funny because it was such a blessing. I was able to get a couple of, so the majority of our business at the time was contingency search. So basically, if I don't find the candidate and the company doesn't hire them, I don't get paid.
Right.
But at the time, or, during those first few months, I was able to land like three different placements. And so that money we were able to kind of live off of while he was able, and I'm like, no, and he was feeling bad because he's like, and so that was another whole element of it too, of he's the breadwinner and
all of a sudden you are.
Yeah. And then now all of a sudden I am, and so that we can take those resources and, put it back into the company to help them chunk down this debt. And just, having to, and I was like, you need to stop beating yourself up about this. This is a blessing. This is an opportunity.
Y'all partners, you're in it together.
Exactly.
Love the fact that even though y'all were going through all that agony and, you saw how scary it was to own a business because you were seeing the underbelly of it, and the fact that you had never worked in that field before and you'd been a stay-at-home mom and a caregiver. I love the fact that you didn't let that scare you away from being like, you know what, I can do this. I think that's so awesome, Katherine, because I think a lot of people would have been like, heck no, I'm going to go get a job down at the shoe store or whatever.
Yes. Well, what's funny is when we first got married, I was the, go corporates, go with the big companies. That's where the stability is. And we found out probably, well, it was before he started the Caliber, but he had gone to work for a couple of different corporations that had then, either downsized or, whatever. And so he got let go. And I was like, all of a sudden, this whole idea of big corporations taking care of their employees was out the window. And so then I was even more on board, with him having, and, he always told me during that time too, he's like, I'm not in control, or you know what I mean? That we're not in control of the situation when I'm going to work for somebody else, because I have no control as to whether they're going to decide to downsize or, you know, move the business to a different, you know, area or whatever.
And, you know, when we were growing up, a lot of parents did work at the same place for decades and retired. I know when I got out of college, even starting then, and like I said, I'm 59, so I graduated in 83, and already, you know, companies were not offering the retirement plans. And it's awful, especially if somebody's been there for decades and then they let them go, like, you know, a year or whatever before they can retire. That's so terrible. But the thing is, when you own your own business, I mean, we can't control everything, but we can control a lot more than we can with a job.
Yes.
And, you know, some of us have been talking about through the group, Steve's group, and also outside of that recently, that, you know, you're investing in yourself. When you have your own business, you're investing in yourself instead of investing in somebody else's company. You just have to be really careful, you know, what you're doing. So,
and that's one of the I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay,
I was just going to say, and that's one of the things that has really come out of, you know, Tab wrote the book, and then he started this refiners group of, you know, business peers basically helping each other. And that's one of the things that would have been so helpful.
It would have, yes.
You know, back in the day, he could have said, hey, these are my options. What do you guys think? Because he didn't have anybody to turn to that, you know, that he could ask that has maybe, you know, gone down that path or, you know, averted that path or whatever. But so that has been, that's been really a huge passion for him. And it's funny because he's always been, you know, very excited about information security and about his business caliber. But now with refiners and helping other businesses and bringing the people together so that they can, you know, network and support each other and have that accountability, it has just been amazing. And it's so much fun to see him just absolutely like blossom.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm excited about the conference. I can't wait for that.
Yes, I am too. It's going to be really good.
Tell the date in case people watching aren't the date of it. I can't.
Yes, it's February 19th and 20th, and it's virtual. So if you are interested in getting a ticket, you can go to refiners.io and get tickets from there. Or, you know, obviously you can message Lisa or myself and we can get you guys hooked up with tickets. But there's a great speakers lined up.
Definitely. I think it's so awesome that he started that. I'm so happy that he wrote the book. I told him last week, there are so many people that are going to be helped because he told the real story and he didn't sugarcoat it, and, you know, including your chapter and all of that, because people do feel like it's just them. They feel like, what's wrong with me? You know, why can't everybody else do it and I can't? And they don't understand that everybody else is going through the same. Look, there's Tab. Oh, okay, good. He put refinersconference.com.
Oh, okay. Thank you for correcting me, Tab.
So I wanted to ask you, when you were driving Uber, how much were you making? Do you remember, like, about how much you made?
It was roughly, I think I was making between $15 and $20 an hour, but that was like that was before I paid for gas and, you know, and all the running and wear and tear on the car, but it was about $15 to $20 an hour. So,
well, I told him last week, we were talking and he was saying, you know, if you're talking with people and some of the people would ask him about himself and then they'd be like, you know, and basically like acting like he's a loser because he's driving Uber. And I said, wouldn't it be so cool if somebody like that ran across your book or ran across your conference or ran across you on a podcast and realized, oh my God, that's that guy that I look down on or whatever. You know, I just think that's really cool.
Yes. And it's such a small world. And you just think, there's so many times when, we do have the opportunity, I guess, that we can pass judgment on other people.
Yeah.
And that always comes around. What do you put out? It comes back to you. And it sounds woo-woo, but it's
true. Yeah.
It's just the way it is. And so like, I didn't feel, it wasn't, for me, it wasn't like a step down, and I don't know that I would even say that for Tab, but you're right. He's a CEO of a company. He owns this business. Why is he driving Uber? So, something must be going wrong somewhere, and
when our kids were little, and Roy had moved in, and our kids were little, and I mean, I was an accountant. I had a CPA license, but I didn't want to leave them. And to be honest, by the time you buy all the clothes and you drive downtown and you pay the parking, I wasn't going to have hardly any money anyway, even though I would have made them. It's like you end up spending it all anyway, and that's just not what I'm all about. So I actually ended up taking a job. One of my friends was the assistant director for the child care center at the Jewish Community Alliance in Jacksonville, Florida, where I lived.
Uh-huh.
I took a job as like the, what do you call it? My brain just went, but substitute. God,
yeah.
Like the substitute. So if somebody wanted to take off or whatever, I would go in and work, and I only made like $5 an hour, but I got to take my kids with me, and I got to wear anything I wanted, shorts basically, because you're in Florida. And I was like, shoot, by the time I go here and get my little $5 an hour, I probably brought home more money than I would have, because it was only a couple of miles from my house. Plus, I didn't have to do it if I didn't want to. I got to do it. I could work 40 hours a week if I wanted, or none.
Yeah.
So, but a lot of people are just too proud to do what they need to do. I did that then because we were starting a new business. That was before I started this. We were starting a new business. We actually had a yacht brokerage and boat dealership. And I mean, we were selling a lot of boats and a lot of money's coming in, but it's got to be rolled right back in the inventory. So I did that to have some extra spending money. But people were like, why are you doing that? You're a CPA. And I'm like, because I don't really want to put on hose and high heels and all that, and be miserable, and just basically be paying for the luxury of going and doing it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that I got to meet y'all, and that I first met you through our group with Steve Sims. I think that's how you and I first met. And then Tab and I somehow met on LinkedIn. I'm not even sure how, but I didn't realize that y'all went together.
Yes.
And, he shared the thing about refiners, and I don't know, somehow I realized, oh, she's over here on Facebook, he's here, and I realized that y'all were husband and wife. I'm so glad that I got to meet y'all, though, and that you're going to be in Scottsdale, right?
Yes, I am. It's going to be really fun. I'm excited.
Tab, he's a creeper.
I know he is.
This is sweet. Ernan, great.
Oh, yes.
You know them?
Yes, we do.
That's really sweet. Thank you. And then Colleen said, don't tell Tab, because Tab's head is big enough. But Colleen says that she loves the book Upsurge. Oh, and then she also said she loves us. Great interview. That's really sweet, Colleen. Thank you. And she also said that sharing the experiences is helping many others. I totally agree that the fact that you and Tab are being so open about everything that you've been through, it's going to help. Hold on, forgot to do that. It's going to help so many people, and I really hope that people read the book. I have the book. Last week, I told Tab that I hadn't downloaded. He gave me a code to download, and I told him I hadn't, and then I went and looked that night. I was like, I did. I downloaded it right when he gave it to me, but I haven't read it because I want to be able to concentrate on it when I'm reading it. And but I'm just so happy that I got to meet y'all and that we have so much in common. And
I know, it's been wonderful.
And it's going to be so much fun.
I know. I'm super excited. I'm ready to get out of the gray of Seattle.
Yeah. Tell everybody how they can. Okay, refinersconference.com is the
.io.
.io.
Is that right, Tab?
Oh, no, here he has refinersconference.com.
Okay, thank you.
But so that's where they can go to the conference. Tell them, do you remember what his website is for his company?
It's Caliber Security Partners.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So Caliber Security Partners, if you want to check out Tab's company and then Katherine's company, tell them how they can reach out to you if they need to hire somebody in the information security space.
Yes. We are the number 3, the letter P, like Pierce, 3P and ANDT.com.
Here, here's, look, Tab's helping us out here.
Okay, it's Tab. It's calibersecurity.com.
Yeah. So 3, the letter P, the word and, the letter T.com.
Exactly, yes.
So if y'all need anybody, if you need to hire anybody in the information security space, reach out to Katherine, because like she said, if she doesn't connect you with the right person to hire, it's not going to cost you anything. But the great thing is, he has worked in that space for so many years that it's like by osmosis.
Right.
You would learn about it. Here's yours, 3P and T. Thank you, Tab. He's keeping us straight.
Good. He knows I can't multitask.
Yeah. Me either. Well, next Tuesday on my show, I'm going to have Dr. Hobie Wedler, who has been blind since birth. He's got a PhD in chemistry, and my father was blind. So Hobie and I met last week, and we just totally hit it off. He's so much fun, but he is the person who came up with the blind taste testing for Francis Ford Coppola's winery, and they call it Tasting in the Dark. And he also was awarded I think it's called Champions for Change Award by President Obama and Forbes 30 Under 30. So he's on the show next week, and we have something really exciting to announce, but I don't think we'll be able to announce it yet on Tuesday. It's going to be something really cool though. But so y'all come back, check out my show Tuesday night, the Disrupt Your Now show. And thank you so much, Katherine.
Thank you so much. It's been really great visiting with you.
Oh, you're welcome. Oh, and Colleen said she'd love to hear more of my story. Thanks, Colleen. I'll have to do a show someday. I like to do shows with other people, because even though I'm obviously don't mind talking, I don't really want to just sit here and talk myself. You know,
have somebody else interview you.
Yeah, that's what I need to do. So.
Yes. Yeah. Bring one of your guests back or something, and have them come back and interview you.
That's a good idea. Thanks, Katherine. I'll talk to you later.
All right,
everybody. See ya. Bye.